What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer taking a look at Invoked Dogmatika with a new tech card, Duality. The whole idea is that you trade Maximus, with Duality, and then you get, Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is very good. It's an Omni-Negate, something that the deck is really needed. Technically, Macabre is, but there's like a lot of stipulations on the Omni-Negate for it, so this card is not aging so well, but the way that the deck is played, you'll see in a second. I have some gameplay after I go over the deck profile, and you'll see what I mean. So let's go ahead and just get into it. The new Dogmatika Ritual Monster, right? This isn't the same Invoked Dogmatika as it's been played forever. A lot of old decks that you'll see kind of have the same list, but there's been a lot of upgrades, and this is obviously the biggest one. Basically, just makes your opponent get rid of half of their extra deck. Sometimes it can bite you and it'll lose you games, right? If you're playing against a deck like Fluenderees or anything like that, it's just going to be horrible for you. So you end up siding it out sometimes against matchups. But going into it blind, it's like objectively like pretty good. Maximus, obviously, and Fleur, pretty simple package. 3 copies of Ecclesia. I don't run the Dogmatika Punishment Trap because you do want to go into the extra deck a lot. And I don't know, while the card's okay, it's just a little too slow, for modern times, I think. And basically, like, punishment has been replaced by this little ritual engine for the most part. 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. This is a really interesting little like combo I have. It's Alistair. You go into, a lot. This is like normal, like Salamangreat Almirage. Normally you go into Secure Gardna, but Salamangreat does have an arrow that points down to the right, so you can just summon 2 copies of Parallel Exceed, change those into IP Masquerena, and then you suddenly have access to Heat Soul, which can't be destroyed by card effects, which is pretty cool. It's like a really nice draw engine, and like I said, you discard a lot in this deck, whether it be App Cologne or like Invoked Macabre, things like that. You need discard fodder, and this is like really nice. You can get this thing up to like 2,800 attack, and if your opponent just so happens to put a monster in that zone, it can go up to 3,000 and kind of just be like a really big guy. And if it just sticks around, you kind of win the duel because you're like simply out resourcing your opponent. And that's why I do run all monster hand traps. Now, unfortunately, like triple tactical talents does kind of destroy you, and it is what it is. There's only so much you can do about that, but you want to be able to normal summon these in case you have parallel in your hand, because just having hand traps, like especially low level hand traps, other than Droll like this, is like kind of bad. So I guess you could do like Nibiru if you wanted something like a little bit more high impact. It's just these are more generic and kind of help me against everything, especially in a casual setting. Like these 9 hand traps just kind of get it done, right? Astral and Lockbird and Effect Veiler. I kind of had like one extra spot like after I was done building the deck the way that I did, and I feel like if you're gonna have one slot, this is one of the best one-ofs because it is a one-of. There's like a lot of people main decking it right now. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I can't really think of a lot of matchups where this is terrible. It's Harpies. Maybe you can change this into a hand trap if you really wanted to, but I don't think it's worth it. I think this is kind of like a higher impact card. Invocation, really like the new art, by the way. I think it's really cool. I want to get a copy of this, definitely. Nadir Servant, this is still a really, really good card. Lets you do so much, especially now with the ritual stuff. Kind of just like limitless. 3 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. This is a draw engine, right? Even if you just like normal summon Alistair, and then you go into Artemis, this is a Pot of Greed, because you're just going to banish it anyways for Macabre. So it's like actually Pot of Greed in the deck. Also, this is a spellcaster. So this is a spellcaster as well. It's kind of like random. So in like super emergency situations, you can just use these also as a draw too. Which is, you never know. But there is like a little engine, I'll explain it later, that I use for this. Because there's also, I think, something called Wand that lets you draw too. It's kind of the same concept. I just think this is a little bit better. Terraforming, Called by the Grave, Duality. This is the new card that lets you cheat things out. Not really a lot of other targets in this deck that you would think. I was hoping like Macabre, but it does have to be a light or dark monster. If it was anything, like you tribute a light and you bring back something with like, I think it has to be special. Yeah, it has to be light or dark. If it was like Earth, it'd be really cool to go into something like Power Tool Dragon, because there's that new equip card that does spells, but it does stick you with light and darks, and really this is kind of the only target, really the only thing you can fit in your extra deck. This is Dogmatika Matrix. This basically lets you search anything, especially going second. This card even gets even better. It searches you one half of the ritual engine, but it also lets you send extra cards out of your or your opponent's extra deck. It's really actually kind of insane. This is like one of the best cards that have come out for this deck in a long time. These two together, a really good solid duo. Magical Meltdown, Secret Village, because I do run Terraforming, so if you already own a copy, or you don't technically need it, sometimes you don't need Alistair, you can also go for this, and that's extremely powerful. Sometimes just game-winning. It won me a game at YCS, because I simply activated this card, and my opponent was playing Runic, so there's like, okay, I just scoop now. Dogmatika Calamity, it's a free ritual summon, lets you send to the graveyard. There is also a Dogmatika card, but this... you could probably just run that too. It's probably better. I think it came out. This is like just something I've had for a long time. Although the funny part is, and this has won me a duel from time to time, there is an invoked monster. I don't even know if I play it in my extra deck. Maybe something that you can side if you really want to. But it's one of the invoked monsters that lets you basically, summon it using a fusion monster. And then you could banish this and it would go up to like 10,000 attack if you used Alistair's effect. But you probably just want to run the other one now. It's probably just better that way. Invoked Macabre, Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, Titanclad, something you want to send to the graveyard for Dogmatika monsters. App Cologne searches you El Shaddai Schism, obviously like a super game-ending card with Winda, that's obvious. Garua lets you draw a card, maybe something you can take out, to be honest with you. Like there's also like some really good extra deck choices that you could put in here instead, like an extra Nadir Servant, but being able to draw a card like in those later like turn 3s, like in those grind games with Maximus, these like obviously is like really, really good. Raijin, really cool with Parallel, also Droll and Lockbird, some synergy there. I talked about Elder Entity Nest, right? You can also like add Ignister too. Like this card is another one that you could drop and like run another engine. I'll show you one that maybe is like a really good candidate, but when you want to do Maximus, like if you get 2 cards that give you advantage, your opponent is losing 2 cards, it like kind of helps you get a lead that's insurmountable. Versus you kind of sending whatever, like maybe cards that you wouldn't end up using. These cards like actively help you. Especially this, like people just don't play around this card because they don't like remember it when they're going through their combos, breaking your boards, and just this feels like a card that's super necessary. Garou is the one that maybe I'd like kind of be iffy on. Talked about Heat Soul, Decode Talker, whatever. Talked about Artemis, talked about IP, and then obviously Salamangreat Almirage. The side deck is a little bit weird, but this is actually the side deck that I would run, and I have been running. The Spellbook engine, so it's not really good going second, it just kind of stinks, but if you know you're going first, like I would, and this is what I do, I take out hand traps. Because again, like they're pretty low impact. I'd rather just like have a crazy end board and force my opponent to have the out. So this is what all comes with. Spellbook of Secrets can search this, and then you just kind of have like the spell loop going. This is like a really good, deck for spellbooks because 1 copy of Terraforming, like if you have Spellbook of Judgment, 1 copy of Terraforming, like gives you the 3 requirements for Jowgen, right? Terraforming is 1, Alistair is 2, and then Alistair searches Invocation, and there's 3. And if you just get Dogmatika, then you can just do more and more crazy things. And I also run 1 Spellbook of Fate too. It's a very good card, especially if Jowgen goes off and you have this in your hand, non-targeting banishment. You're like in a really good spot. Necro Valley, another target for Terraforming if you want to replace it, right? If your opponent's not playing like a super spell heavy deck. Evenly matched, 2 copies of Lightning Storm. And then this is that part where I'm saying you can switch this into the extra deck. It's Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, because you can also do, instead of going into Heat Soul, you can switch this engine out, right? Salamangreat Almirage, bring 2 out, go into IP. This just requires 2 monsters from the extra deck. So there you go. It's basically the same requirements as Heat Soul for all intents and purposes. So you have a non-destruction in Heat Soul, and then you activate Invocation, and you go into Kaliga. Your opponent can only activate 1 monster effect during like each turn. And also, it's protected from your Avermax. It's a pretty decent combo. It's really hard to get over Avermax, and then just gives you like battle protection, and you basically just go for game. And if you're playing Invocation, normal summon Alice, you only need 1 monster effect to kind of go off there. Pretty neat. And then I do have 1 copy of Dark Ruler. Maybe if you want to take out Necro Valley or whatever, like the Spellbook engine, if you think it's stupid, you can do that too. But let's go ahead and jump over to the replays here. A few pretty fun ones. This is against Runic. We'll see what ends up happening here. Kind of a weird opening. It's actually like terrible. I don't know how I win this. Okay, so he gets to go first. I am going to go ahead and Ash there, right? Don't want him to search Fountain. I think it ends up happening anyways because he did have Tip. Kind of unfortunate, kind of frustrating. And as long as like the last card he doesn't draw off of his Horus, isn't a Runic spell, then I'm good. And of course it is. So that was kind of frustrating. So more of my cards get banished. Wanted to quit, but it's like I was like, let's just play it out and see what happens. I think he's gonna have a lot, but you never know. And I do have Invocation in my hand, which is nice. And none of my ritual stuff was banished either, so I kind of got lucky. So this card like forcibly negates the first effect. It's anything. It's an Omni, but it is Force It. So, okay, I'm like, I don't need really Called by the Grave because I already have Invocation anyways. I did also have Parallel Exceed. I can bring the other one out. I don't know if another copy... One did get banished, so didn't really matter. And I can draw an extra card here. He does go for Effect Veiler. Okay, that's fine. So I can go into Raijin. Bring back the Alistair the Invoker for a little bit of follow-up. And now I can search the Continuous spell, which is really, really cool. He does Fusion Summon here. If he had just waited, he could have used it on the Continuous spell. And really, I would have been in a super bad spot. But he did want to draw, maybe try to find some extra interruption. But that's going to hurt him really bad. But instead of searching the Ritual spell, Maximus is a much better option, right? Because Maximus can get you there by sending Herald. All right, so, you know, Maximus is going to send 2. I'm going to pop the Continuous spell. That way those things can't come back, or at least theoretically. The reason well, he was getting rid of this anyways, but I Book of Mooned it so he can't use the effect again. I think it goes off in the standby phase. So these are both going to come back, but this is going to come down like this. Also, this is a soft once per turn, so I was able to Book of Moon this. I did that just so I could draw a card during his draw phase. So it was, you know, worked out pretty well. Plus I have Shadoll Schism, which is my out. And this is funny, right? Like, the only reason I know this is because I play rank 8 decks so much, or like cheating these things out through your Utopia engine. Yeah, he tried to use his effect. It negates your effects too. Look at that. He did have another Horus card. That kind of stinks. But yeah, like this just wins, right? Like even though this is unaffected by activated effects, it's still affected by Schism. And then Winda is obviously just incredible. And then look at that. Like I'm playing against Runic, which is supposed to be like the ultimate draw engine. And Heat Soul every single turn is giving me so much advantage. And I'm like literally out-resourcing a Runic player, which you would think is like almost impossible. Okay, so this was a match I had against Agents, just kind of like the same tier deck, I kind of feel like. But this is a really good opening. This is actually a match. In the first game, I bricked super hard. I just went straight to game 2, and you can see I sided this in. If this was any other spellbook card, I would have had the Jowgen Lock 2, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I can go... I was trying to protect myself against Nibiru there. You know, pretty much worked out for me. I can go now into Heat Soul. I think he actually throws in a copy of Nadir, which is kind of wild. It's the kind of... I don't know. I don't really know what other deck forces you to send things to the graveyard, but he did have it in there. All right, we can go ahead and send a couple. I was like not expecting him to have anything, but yeah, it does go for Nadir, destroying Makaba. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, he definitely just has evenly matched. And I need to find a way to get around that. But I'm searching so much that the draws you get off top of Heat Soul are like more valuable than any other deck. And I did get Duality, basically ensuring my win, because Heat Soul is going to give me that discard fodder that I need for Dragoon. Again, why this card is just so good in this deck and kind of just a must. You know, I can put it in that zone there. This can't be targeted. So if he did have a melee match, it wasn't going to do anything. Some of his effects were good to send, but he's going to try to special summon, and I'm just like not going to let that happen. Winda's just like an instant Winda, like basically every single time you play is so good. It's so reliable. So then we went into game 3, and you can side out everything. I didn't really talk about that during the deck profile, but you just side out like all these other like sub engines in there, and then you just have like so many hand traps. Like Duality I would get rid of. You can just like mess around. Like there's so many cards like Shadoll Schism you don't need. You can kind of fill up like all of these spots and have like 15 hand traps. So I have like evenly matched in Lightning Storm. Pretty good combo. As long as he doesn't put up 2 negates. I know he's gonna like probably go into Baron, but I was hoping he didn't also have like Boar Load, and I know that Agents also have like a counter trap, which I was kind of scared of, but I don't think he searched it. If I'm not mistaken, they do have an Omni for like spells and traps. But he does go into Christia, and this is where like Nadir Servant is like truly incredible, and a big reason why you should never side out the Ritual engine. It's Ecclesia, which makes things like even better. He's forced to go for Baron, and I just go into the battle phase. I knew he was going to keep this one, so then I just go into Nadir Servant, and then I can destroy it. And I got to search Maximus too. So it's like, it's so over. Matrix, he doesn't have in control a monster anymore, but that's fine because I already have all the engine pieces. Plus I get to draw too, you know, with the Spellbook of Fate. Or Knowledge, excuse me. I forced his Nadir Servant out because I knew he would like have to pop something, and I didn't want to go into Maximus and then have it be popped because I wanted to have this on the field. I was kind of scared he was going to like pop Ecclesia, but he didn't. I don't really know why, but there goes 2 more cards. Access code, just like all these board breakers. I sat it out Schism, so that was like a misplay by me. I should have sent like something like Wind Pegasus. It was just funny. Like I didn't think about it. Obviously, I don't really need it. Like the rest of his extra deck is gone. 2 more and then 2 more here. And now he's going Alistair, and yeah, it's super over. Truly incredible. Like it's such a fun deck to play. But yeah, that is Invoked Dogmatika. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.